Before we begin, make sure you subscribe right now and join this community of serious collectors, investors, and history-driven men who understand that real wealth is sometimes hidden in plain sight. If you appreciate powerful stories about rare coins, forgotten treasures, and life-changing discoveries, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal might completely change the way you look at the coins in your pocket. Today, we are talking about a coin that most people have seen, many have held, and almost everyone has ignored. The South Africa 1 Rand 2002 coin. At first glance, it looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. It sounds ordinary when it hits the table. But gentlemen, especially those of you between 35 and 65 and beyond, you already know something most young people don't. The world is built on details, and fortunes are often made by the men who pay attention to those details. Let me take you back to 2002. The world was different. Economies were shifting. Nations were redefining themselves. South Africa, a country with a powerful and complex history, was moving forward in a new era. Its currency, the rand, carried not just monetary value but national identity. And the 1 Rand coin of 2002 became part of that story. Now imagine this. A coin minted in large numbers, passed from hand to hand, used in grocery stores, fuel stations, small businesses, and markets. It paid for bread. It paid for newspapers. It paid for simple daily needs. No one treated it with respect. No one locked it away. No one imagined that years later, collectors and investors would begin looking at it with very different eyes. The 1 Rand coin from 2002 carries the familiar design elements that reflect South Africa's heritage. Strong imagery, bold national symbols, clean metallic composition. It is not flashy. It is not gold. It is not oversized. And that is precisely what makes the story so powerful. Because true value does not always scream. Sometimes it waits quietly. Most men watching this understand something about time. We have seen markets rise and fall. We have seen property values explode. We have seen stocks collapse overnight. We have learned, often the hard way, that patience and awareness separate the winners from the rest. Coins are no different. The right coin, in the right condition, with the right characteristics, can quietly transform from spare change into a collector's obsession. Now let's talk about condition, because this is where things begin to get interesting. A circulated 2002 1 Rand coin that has scratches, wear, fading detail, and damage will always remain common. But a coin preserved in near-perfect condition, with sharp details, original luster, and no significant marks, becomes a different story entirely. Collectors call this mint condition. Investors call it opportunity. But condition is only one piece of the puzzle. There are variations that most people never notice. Slight differences in strike quality, alignment variations, subtle minting inconsistencies. In some rare cases, production errors that slip through the cracks of quality control. These are the details that transform a simple coin into a rare specimen. Think about it. Millions of coins are produced by machines operating at incredible speed. Even the most advanced systems are not perfect. And when something small goes wrong, when a die shifts slightly, when a metal blank is imperfect, when pressure is uneven, a rare error can be born. Most are caught and destroyed, but a few escape into circulation. Now imagine holding one of those rare examples without even knowing it. Men between 35 and 65 understand the power of oversight. You've seen businesses fail because someone missed a small detail. You've seen opportunities slip away because someone underestimated the situation. The same principle applies here. The difference between a coin worth face value and a coin worth a fortune can come down to a tiny detail that most people overlook. Let's talk numbers for a moment. When the 2002 1 Rand coin was minted, it was produced in significant quantities for everyday use. That creates the illusion of permanence. People assume that because something was once common, It will always be common. But time changes everything. Coins get damaged. Coins get lost. Coins get melted. Coins disappear into private collections and never return to the market. Over 2 decades later, the number of high-grade, well-preserved 2021 Rand coins is far smaller than it once was. And scarcity is one of the fundamental drivers of value. Scarcity plus demand equals power. Now let's talk about demand. Why would collectors care about this specific year? Because early 2000s coinage represents a specific transitional period. It reflects a stabilized national currency in a post-transition era. It represents continuity and resilience. And serious collectors often focus on completing year sets. When they need one specific year in exceptional condition, they are willing to compete for it. Competition drives price. And when two determined collectors want the same rare coin, logic sometimes steps aside and emotion takes over. But here's where the story deepens. There have been whispers among collectors about certain 2021 Rand coins that display unique mint characteristics. Slight dye variations, unusual sharpness in specific areas of the design, subtle metal composition differences in limited batches. These are not widely discussed in mainstream circles. They circulate in private collector groups, auctions, and specialized discussions. And when information is limited, curiosity grows. Curiosity fuels demand. Demand fuels value. Now I want you to imagine something. You are cleaning out an old drawer. Maybe it's in your garage. Maybe it's in your office. Maybe it's in a small wooden box that hasn't been opened in years. You find a handful of old coins. Among them, a 2002 South Africa 1 Rand coin. At first, you almost toss it aside. It looks ordinary. But then you remember this video. You pause. You examine it carefully. You notice the edges, the detail, the shine. You compare it to images in your memory. You realize it looks better than most circulated coins you've seen. That moment right there is the difference between ignorance and awareness. Most people never experience that moment because they never look closely. But the men watching this channel, the men who have built careers, families, and reputations over decades, understand that wealth often hides behind patience. Let's talk about grading. Professional coin grading can transform perception. When a coin is authenticated and graded at a high level, its credibility in the marketplace rises dramatically. Buyers gain confidence. Sellers gain leverage. A certified high-grade 2021 Rand coin becomes more than metal. It becomes documented scarcity, and documented scarcity attracts serious money. Now, I'm not saying every 2021 Rand coin is rare. Let's be clear. The majority remain common. But within every large mintage year, there are exceptions. And exceptions are where fortunes are made. History has shown us countless examples of everyday objects becoming extraordinary investments. Classic cars that. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the story you are about to hear might completely change the way you look at the coins sitting quietly in your drawer, your pocket, or that old jar in the garage. Today, we are talking about a coin that most people in South Africa have seen, many have used, and almost everyone has ignored. The South Africa 2 Rand coin from 2016. At first glance, it looks ordinary, familiar, everyday, but sometimes the most ordinary objects carry the most extraordinary secrets. If you are between 35 and 65 or older, this story is especially for you. You understand value. You understand history. You understand what it means to hold something solid in your hand and wonder what it has witnessed over the years. This is not just about money. This is about legacy, about heritage, about the silent power of metal that has traveled through thousands of hands. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine 2016. The world was shifting. Economies were fluctuating. Political conversations were heating up across continents. In South Africa, change was in the air. And right in the middle of all that, Millions of 2 Rand coins were minted and released into circulation. Most people spent them without a second thought. A coffee, a newspaper, parking, loose change handed back at a supermarket counter. But collectors, the experienced men who understand that history often hides in plain sight, they looked closer. The 2 Rand coin is not just a piece of metal. It represents the strength of the South African economy, the resilience of its people, and the national identity that has evolved over decades. The design itself carries symbolism. Every curve, every engraving, every detail was carefully chosen. It was not random. It was deliberate. Think about how many coins are produced in a single year. Millions. But here is the truth seasoned collectors know. Not all coins are equal. Even within the same year, the same denomination, there can be differences. Minting variations, rare batches, error strikes, limited distribution releases. These small differences are what separate an everyday coin from a hidden treasure. Now let's talk about condition. Men in our age group understand the importance of condition. A classic car in mint condition is worth exponentially more than one rusting in a field. The same principle applies to coins. A 2016 2 Rand coin that has never truly circulated, that has been preserved, protected from scratches, dents, and corrosion, can tell a completely different financial story than one that has passed through thousands of transactions. But condition is only part of the equation. The year 2016 carries its own significance. Economic pressures were present. Currency values fluctuated. Global commodity markets were unstable. In times of uncertainty, tangible assets gain attention. Gold, silver, rare collectibles, coins. Some 2016 2 Rand coins were kept aside intentionally. Collectors understood that modern coins, especially from specific production runs, could become highly desirable in the future. The South African Mint has a reputation for quality craftsmanship, precision, consistency. Yet even in precision systems, anomalies occur. And anomalies create rarity. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you examined your spare change carefully? Not glanced at it, not tossed it aside, but truly examined it, under light, with focus, like a man inspecting an engine or evaluating a piece of machinery. Because sometimes, what separates a common coin from a collector's piece is a microscopic detail, a slight misalignment, a doubling of text, a subtle difference in finish. These are not visible to someone in a rush, but they are visible to someone who understands patience. The 2 Rand coin itself is bimetallic. That alone makes it visually distinctive. The contrast between the inner core and the outer ring is not just aesthetic. It reflects modern minting technology. It symbolizes unity within diversity. Two metals fused into one solid unit, much like a nation built from multiple cultures and histories. For men who appreciate engineering, there is something satisfying about holding a bimetallic coin. It represents technical advancement. It is not as simple as pressing a single sheet of metal. It requires precision bonding, controlled pressure, accurate alignment. Every piece that comes out of the mint is the result of industrial mastery. Now here is where things become interesting. While millions were minted, not all of them survived in perfect condition. Coins were down. They get scratched. They are lost. Some are melted. Some are damaged beyond recognition. Over time, supply decreases, especially of higher-grade examples. Collectors operate on a simple principle. Scarcity plus demand equals value, and demand is not always immediate. Sometimes it grows slowly, quietly, like a storm forming beyond the horizon. In 2016, very few people thought twice about putting aside a 2 Rand coin. It was too recent, too common, too ordinary. But experienced collectors, particularly those who had been in the hobby for decades, knew better. They understood that modern coins can become tomorrow's rarities, especially when certain hidden factors come into play. Let's talk about grading. Professional coin grading changed the game. When a coin is evaluated and certified by experts, Its condition is standardized. A high-grade certified coin commands attention in the market. It tells buyers that this is not just someone's opinion. It is verified quality. Imagine a 2016 2 Rand coin preserved straight from the mint. No scratches, no discoloration, perfect luster, perfect strike, encapsulated and graded at a near-perfect score. Suddenly, what was once pocket change becomes a collectible asset, but grading alone is not enough. Story matters. Men between 35 and 65 understand the power of a good story. We grew up hearing stories of rare finds in garages, barns, old safes. Stories of people discovering forgotten items worth fortunes. These stories resonate because they remind us that opportunity does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it sits quietly, waiting to be recognized. The 2016 2 Rand coin has a story connected to its era. A period of economic tension, political discourse, national identity. It represents a snapshot of South Africa at a specific moment in time. Coins are time capsules. When you hold one, you are holding a fragment of that year. The metal was shaped then. The design was chosen then. The decision to mint it happened in that historical context. Now imagine decades from now. Imagine collectors looking back at 2016 as a pivotal year. They will want tangible artifacts from that time. They will want coins in exceptional condition. They will want specific variations that may have gone unnoticed by the general public. And here is the reality. Many valuable coins were once considered worthless. There was a time when rare coins were spent freely because no one knew their future significance. Only later did the market wake up. So what should you look for in a 2016 South Africa 2 Rand coin? First, examine the surface carefully. Look for unusual textures or minting errors. Second, inspect the alignment between. Before we begin, take 1 second and subscribe to this channel right now. If you are someone who respects history, understands real value, and believes that knowledge can still turn into opportunity, this channel is made exactly for you. Subscribing today means you never miss the kind of information that most people only discover when it is already too late. Today, I want you to slow down, sit comfortably, and listen carefully. This is not a fast story. This is not a story for children. This is a story for men who have lived, worked, struggled, collected, saved, and understood that the past often hides its greatest rewards in silence. What I am about to share with you is about a single coin, a small, ordinary-looking piece of metal that many people have touched, spent, ignored, or forgotten. Yet this coin carries weight far beyond its size. It carries history, politics, survival, and a quiet kind of power that only time can create. The coin comes from South Africa, and the year stamped on it is 1977. At first glance, it looks simple. A 1 Rand coin. No gold shine screaming wealth. No dramatic size. No obvious sign that it should be worth more than what it says on its face. And that is exactly why it is dangerous to underestimate to understand why this coin matters. You must understand the era it was born into. The late 1970s were not peaceful, easy years. They were heavy years. Years of tension, control, resistance, and change. Money during this time was not just currency. It was a symbol of authority, stability, and survival. Coins were produced with intention, with messaging, with precision. Every design choice mattered. Every minting decision reflected a deeper story. The 1977 1 Rand coin entered circulation during a period when the nation was under enormous pressure, both internally and from the world watching closely. Economic systems were tight. Production decisions were calculated. Errors were not common, but when they happened, they mattered. Small variations could slip through. Tiny differences in metal composition, striking pressure, alignment, or finish could quietly escape notice. Those are the moments collectors live for, even if they do not realize it at the time. Most people who use this coin never stop to examine it. It passed through hands at petrol stations, grocery counters, bus fares, and small daily transactions. Men carried it in their pockets after long workdays. Some saved it in drawers without thinking twice. Others lost it between sofa cushions or old wallets. But a very small number of these coins were different. And those differences were subtle enough that only patience and experience could reveal them. The design itself speaks of authority and identity. It reflects a country asserting its image, its symbols, its control over its monetary system. The metal used was chosen carefully, balancing durability with cost. But during this particular year, something unusual happened. The production numbers, the quality control, and the specific conditions of minting created a narrow window where certain coins emerged that did not fully match the standard specifications. Now, this is where the story becomes interesting, and where many people make the mistake of thinking this is exaggeration. Coin value is not only about age. It is not only about metal. It is about rarity, demand, condition, and story. And the 1977 1 Rand coin carries all four when found in the right form. There are versions of this coin that show differences in edge detail. Some reveal alignment characteristics that are not consistent with the standard issue. Others show variations in surface texture that suggest an unusual striking process. These are not damages from circulation. These are birthmarks from the mint itself. And those birthmarks separate ordinary coins from extraordinary ones. Collectors who specialize in African coinage know this year well. They know that most examples are common and worth face value or slightly more. But they also know that a tiny fraction exists in conditions so pristine, so perfectly preserved, or so uniquely produced that they sit in an entirely different category. These are the coins that never stayed in circulation long. Coins that were set aside, sometimes unknowingly, sometimes intentionally, and left untouched for decades. Imagine a coin struck in 1977, immediately placed into storage, protected from moisture, friction, and human hands. Decades pass. Governments change. Economies rise and fall. Inflation eats away at modern currency. But that coin remains the same. Silent. Waiting. Men in the 35 to 65 age range understand this kind of patience. You understand long-term value. You understand that real worth often comes later, not immediately. This coin speaks directly to that mindset. It rewards the person who did not rush, who did not spend everything immediately, who understood that some things are worth keeping. Another layer that adds power to this coin is the historical emotion attached to it. Coins from this period are no longer just money. They are artifacts. They represent a moment frozen in metal. Political systems, social tension, and economic realities are all captured in that 1 Rand piece. That emotional weight increases desirability, especially among serious collectors who are not chasing trends, but legacy. There are documented cases where rare condition coins from this exact year have sparked intense competition among buyers. Not because they are flashy, but because they are scarce. Scarcity creates pressure. Pressure creates value. And value attracts attention. What many people do not realize is that the market for rare coins is not driven by the average buyer. It is driven by a small group of highly informed individuals and institutions. These buyers are patient. They wait years for the right example. And when it appears, price becomes secondary to ownership. Condition plays a critical role. A circulated 1977 1 Rand is nothing special, but an uncirculated, mint-state example with verified unique characteristics becomes something else entirely. It moves from pocket change into investment territory. And when that investment is tied to history, scarcity, and demand, the ceiling rises dramatically. Think about how many coins from 1977 were melted, lost, damaged, or forgotten. Think about how many survived in perfect condition. The number shrinks every year. Time is not kind to metal unless metal is protected. That shrinking supply quietly pushes value upward. Now imagine discovering that one of these exceptional examples, when authenticated, evaluated, and presented to the right audience, has been associated with valuations that reach a staggering level. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but a figure that stops conversations cold. Before I reveal that number, understand this clearly. Not every 1977 1 Rand coin is valuable. Most are not. But the existence of ordinary examples does not erase the power of extraordinary ones. In every field, it is the exception that defines the peak. This is why I always say, never rush to sell, never assume something is worthless, and never ignore history sitting quietly in your possession. Many men have thrown away opportunities simply because it did not look impressive at first glance. The very end of this story, when everything comes together, when history, rarity, condition, and demand align, this single coin has been associated with